From our mics to your ears, get ready for Anime Podcaster Speed Date! The only show on the internet that takes you in depth with the creators you love, or will love soon. I'm your host, Isekai Sensei-Sama, but you can call me Brad, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kermit D. Grog. Say hi, Kermit.
Hi, Kermit.
Our guest has given us a single episode of an anime that means something to them in one way or another. And Kermit and I have compiled questions from that episode that will reveal the inner workings of our guest's mind. So without further ado, I'm happy to introduce today's guest, Maxy Bee.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I promise Kermit doesn't bite. Before we dive into the questions and we learn your deepest, darkest secrets, now's your chance to give us your elevator pitch. I'll put 15 seconds on the clock. And here we go.
I'm Maxy Bee, podcast research for Shonen Flop. You can find it at shonenflop.com, where we look at cancelled manga. Also, I do a list where I rank every single album ever. It's really kind of interesting. Prince is at number 1, and the birds are right near the bottom, but the shags are at the actual bottom.
Nice.
Very nice. Maxy shared with us Masuda Kōsuke Gekijō, Gag Manga Biyori, Season 1, Episode 12, titled, You're a Detective, Usami-chan? Gag Manga Biyori, also known as Kyosuke Masuda Theater, Good Day for a Gag Manga, was originally a manga written and illustrated by Kyosuke Masuda, and published in Shueisha's monthly Shonen Jump magazine starting in January 2000. It moved around to other magazines throughout its run, and even had a name change, but it's still being published in Jump Square. The anime started with a short film in 2002, followed by a full season in 2005. It had 4 seasons, the last being aired in 2010 and being released under the name Gag Manga Biyori Plus. Before we jump into it, a quick note that this anime is very difficult to find. And now I'll throw it over to Kermit to tell us a little bit about this episode.
So to give you some context about it, the episode that we watched, knowledge that these episodes are all 5 minutes, and with the intro and the outro, they're like 4 minutes, if less than that. So this episode followed Usagi-chan, who is a 5th grader rabbit who solved crimes related to perversion, who were always perpetrated by her. I don't know if he was a friend or just another student or just somebody else out there who was a bear, and he is always somehow the perpetrator in all of them. And this happened, there's like 4 or 5 cases. So it is, gag manga is already very insane, and this was an extra special blast of that within a 5-minute span.
And with that, it's time to get started with our first round. So now, let's crank up the heat. In this round, Kermit and I will take turns asking questions. All you've got to do is answer them honestly. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Well, here we go.
For our very first episode of this new show that we're still figuring out, you have suggested for us the last episode of a very strange, very obscure gag manga anime, which each episode is 5 minutes. What is wrong with you?
The very second you told me about this show and pitched me being on, I went, I have to pick something that I think reflects my taste, how I grew with anime as a young person online in the early noughties, and I went, you know what, I also need to pick something short, because whilst there's so much you can dig into with all these big half-hour epics featuring gore and blood and people dying and being miserable, no, what I want to give you is something that is slightly uncomfortable and done quickly.
That is very accurate to what we experienced.
So, in the opening song for this anime, the singer sings, "You and I aren't friends, but my friend and you are friends," or something like that. Would you say that you have more friends than you have friends of friends?
I have found that as a person in my mid-30s, I have very few friends, full stop. I think the way I've ended up looking at things like working relationships, what people call work friends, and the way I would look at people who have been to places like school with me together, is now at a further distance. I don't see those things as necessarily friendships. Most of my interactions online, as someone who left the platform known as Twitter within the last couple of years, you quickly see that those are school friendships. They do not, in fact, last beyond being in the same class as it is. So I would say that I probably have more friends of friends than friends. I have a nice tight pool. There are people who I open up to and give answers like this to. But by and large, as I get older, it shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. Unlike me, where things tend to go the other way.
If you were solving crimes, what kind of detective or what division would you work under?
It would have to be a private detective, first of all. We don't work with the cops. We don't believe in that around here. I imagine I would have some sort of interesting gimmick to it. Like, I like Columbo. I like his sort of turning around like, hey, I've got another little way of fucking with you, buddy. That's not how he talks, but can you imagine if it was? So I think I would be the contrarian detective. I would work for a group of socially inept detectives. We would be a co-op, a sort of small group supporting each other, and we would all go out and solve crimes, but in ways that were very socially difficult to deal with.
Well, follow-up question to that. While Usami-chan is said to have a good reputation, she also doesn't hesitate to call the cops on anyone, even her friends or parents. How do you feel about the police and snitches?
I am a working class Briton. I have felt the cruelty of the police system here, which is less than in most countries, and I think that snitches do in fact get stitches. There are no good Asami-chans. They all are bad.
Asami-chan intuition kicks in whenever there's a mystery. What makes your intuition kick in?
Usually around the point where someone's not given an answer I expected, and I have to go into full detective mode to work out if they're mad at me.
So, Usami-chan is shown multiple times standing on top of a flower, which struggles under her foot. Do you ever feel like you're a flower struggling under the foot of society?
Absolutely. Again, I'm working class. I work in the decorating industry, often faced with tasks of fitting large amounts of new product for the upper classes into an increasingly small warehouse that is, I tell you no joke, built on landfill, and so slowly sinking away, and I feel myself too sinking away with it as the pressure of life weighs down on me.
In the episode, Komakichi-kun the bear escapes capture by making the sound of a dog. What sound does a dog make?
It depends what country you're in. You may be thinking that, yes, as in the episode, it would be a woof woof. But we can also say, in fact, that the most common dog sound in Japan would be wan wan. And indeed, if you were in France or Belgium, you would be expecting a dog to say whir whir.
Usami-chan's shirt says carnivorous. As a rabbit, do you feel that she is appropriating predator culture?
No, and I will tell you why. I owned 2 rabbits when I was around 10 years old, and we moved up the street into a larger house. And within that move, one of them panicked and bit into the other one, and I fear it got a taste for blood. And in that moment, I knew all rabbits secretly want to be carnivores. They're just too busy doing the dirty to really get around to it. I believe this strongly and with full conviction.
I have a bit of a confession to make. That was, in fact, a trick question. Later on in the episode, the narrator says that Usami-chan likes horse meat.
I mean, who doesn't? It was, of course, a controversy in the UK that we had some ready meals turn out to have horse meat in, and the more I thought about it, the more I went, horse sounds good.
Very fitting after this Beastars style question. If you had to be an animal in a manga, what would it be?
Magpie. I identify strongly with the magpie. It is a lover of shiny things. It has to grab them and get them. There is, of course, the superstition. If you see one on its own, it's one for sorrow, two for joy. Part of the way of dealing with the curse if you're seeing a magpie on the road is you have to salute. I am a person who drives, and if I see a magpie by itself, I am not necessarily the safest driver, because suddenly I need to decide between saluting or having full control of the wheel. I really feel strongly that magpies are the most important animal in my life. I adore them. It's like special animal. You can feed them peas. I highly recommend feeding any corvid or corvid-related bird peas, because they are so delightful and they're so gentle with their pointy beaks. And so I would too like to be such a sweet creature.
So, Nyami-chan is a repeated target of harassment from Kamukichi-kun. How do you feel about a justice system that continues to allow Kamukichi-kun back into the classroom? And do you think this is an accurate portrayal of the real justice system?
Depends where you live, which is a cop-out answer. But I think we can all agree that in some places, and certainly some class stratas, people can get away with repeated abusive behaviours towards people, especially women, with relative ease.
As stated, this is a fairly obscure anime and manga. How did you even find it?
How did I find it? I am a big fan of the monthly Shonen Jump series Beat the Vandalbuster by Riku Sanjo and Koji Inada. It was, I believe, still running at the time, but was about to go into what would be its incredibly long, decade-long hiatus. But it made me curious about monthly Shonen Jump. And one of the first things I was able to find out about was Gag Manga Biyori. And because it had an anime that was subbed, it was then what I immediately jumped into. And it and Bobo awakened my love for gag manga. And the fact it was 5 minutes long made it very convenient to download over incredibly weak broadband, or I think what would have been, at the time, the last gasp breaths of dial-up. So it was easy to consume, and because the episodes are so frenetic and so frequently different, it just had that immediate sort of, oh, I've got to check this out. What's up with the fact that each one's like a completely different high concept, you know?
Well, for our final question of round 1. Pomi-chan, an elephant, is shown standing in an open doorway wearing nothing but a towel. Do you enjoy getting closer to nature in a similar way?
Now, when you say in a similar way, do you mean do I enjoy getting closer to nature while wearing a towel, or do I enjoy getting close to elephants that are wearing clothes?
Well, similar, however you'd like to take it.
I actually like being incredibly covered up in nature. I'm terrified of a lot of insects, and especially ticks. So whilst I enjoy having a lovely walk through a field, there is this part of me that goes, if I'm doing this in shorts, I want to set everything on fire. And shorts are just a towel that you've tucked between your legs. And so it's a similar concept.
With our first round down, now it's time to slow things down a bit for round 2. In the second round, we'll keep asking questions, but in a more slow and sultry way. Are you prepared?
I am always prepared.
So to kick us off for this round, I'll throw it to Kermit.
Is this your favorite gag manga? And if not, what is?
Oh, why wasn't I ready for this question? It is not my favourite gag manga. It is pretty close, I want to say. My favourite is Beautifuku Jaguar, which is by Kyosuke Usta and ran in the final pages of Weekly Shonen Jump for 10 years, from 2000 to 2010. It is about a man with bright red hair, Super Saiyan spiky, who can play the recorder like it's a guitar.
Speaking of recorders, a recorder is an instrument that most elementary school students are tasked with learning the basics of. How do you feel about forcing children to perform for our entertainment?
I really wish I had chosen the late Because I don't think the recorder appears in this episode.
It does, in fact.
It does, in fact.
Kumakichi steals the top.
Is it in this? I ended up rewatching all of them, so I couldn't remember whether it was this episode or not. I literally went through all the episodes today.
Kumakichi steals the top of Nyami-chan's recorder.
Yes, I think it is, yes, and holds it in his mouth in the most iconic shot in all of anime history for me. It's just that drool falling out while he's got that recorder in there. The recorder is a terrible instrument to inflict upon a child. It is a worse instrument to inflict upon their parents. It is a joke put in place purely because it is incredibly cheap. And you have to appreciate that, again, from the working class end of things. But surely they could make it sound less like shit in the year 2024.
This is where I will deviate slightly and plug a YouTube channel. You'll have to search for it, where a woman plays the recorder. And the specific one that I'm thinking of, she has 3 separate recorders. A elementary school version, a mid-tier version, and an expensive version. The expensive version being $600, I believe. And she shows the difference between them. The expensive one sounds amazing.
Huh. As stated earlier, Komakichi-kun makes the sound of a dog to escape the police. What sound will you make to throw off the cops?
What a pig scared of wolves. So I'll go, ooh, werewolves of London. You know, that'll get them gone.
Kumakichi-kun repeatedly outs himself as the criminal. Do you think getting arrested is a permissible fetish, or should it be discouraged?
All fetishes, I think, that are considered permissible require the consent of all participants. And I think the act of being arrested is very difficult to have be consensual as a fetish action. It can only be consentable as an aggressive or controlling action. And so it cannot, by its nature, be permissible unless you have a really horny cop.
Have you ever had anything important from you burgled?
When I was about 10 years old in Australia, in the Blue Mountains, we had the entire contents of the back of our rental car stolen. I think that's probably the only instance I've actually had my stuff burgled. I was stuck wearing long johns for a couple of days while we sorted things out, because that's what I was sleeping in at the time. I think I had clothes, but they may have been dirty. I was 10, try not to worry too much about it.
How do you feel about erasers?
We call them rubbers here, which it does create problems on a cross-cultural basis. I would say it's more acceptable for one thing to be rectangular with pink up the top and white down the bottom than it is for the other one. And in fact, if you whip one of them out to try and get rid of some pencil marks on your exam paper, you will be kicked out of the exam room. So it is very important to remember which rubber to use correctly, but I would say I am neutral on them.
What would your cool detective name be?
Dick fucks good. Wait, am I allowed to swear?
Is that F-U-C-H?
Well, it's actually Fuchs good, so it's F umlaut U X and then just G-O-O-D, because I got bored of the surname halfway through.
The majority of this anime takes place within an elementary school. Do you think the current trajectory of Western-style education is sustainable and will allow Western nations to keep pace with the rapidly advancing industries of the future?
I mean, not in America because you're all getting shot, but perhaps in England, the education system is a little less deadly. We have a distance with knives, so the kids, if they're keeping up their athletics, will usually last long enough in life to get a good formal education. I mean to say, no, I feel like education's going fine. My child's slowly learning to read. Eventually, she'll do a book.
Speaking of reading, of the 1,100 plus chapters, how much of Case Closed have you taken in?
25 chapters in order from the first chapter, although I have read a block of chapters from around 960 all the way through to 1,040. Back when I was reading Weekly Shonen Sunday on a weekly basis, and by reading, I mean very loosely reading, because Jesus Christ, that comic's wordy.
Do you believe that a panda teaching 4th grade is a good use of China's Panda Loan program?
It's a very interesting question, because you really have to decide whether there are any good uses of a panda whatsoever. They don't particularly eat bamboo at a decent enough rate to deal with how much that overgrows as a weed. They don't shag well enough, so I'm not going to go to them for that. So why not have them teach? Those who can't teach PE, as they say. So I would perhaps have them focus on the athletic side of things.
Seriously, why this show? Why the last one specifically?
Why the last one? Just because it's the first of the Usami-chan episodes, and I think there's something very appealing about what was at the time then a rich vein of here's a kids show presentation with a surprisingly adult subject matter in it. Like, you know, there were things like Avenue Q popping up around the time or such. Is that what it was? Yeah. And so it fits into that mould. But at the same time, it was just a mad scrabble to think what would be the best episode. Because, you know, I could have thrown you one where they go and say, oh, why are all of our included stickers with bubblegum of this really annoying looking kid who keeps stamping on my feet when we bring him into the building, you know? Or I could have had, or the episode that you guys accidentally watched, just to break kayfabe, where a girl tries to say something cool when she's dying and fails over and over again. Like, there's really no wrong answers. Or indeed one where it's the end of Journey to the West, but they're all trying to go and be the first person to finish the journey, and so the monk gets a nyoibo shoved right up his arse, and they're all like doing things like wearing big shoes and that, so they get to say they're the first one who wins. It really is just like me deciding what would have been the funniest thing to show you guys. And I decided Pervert Bear.
All right, well, that'll do it for round 2. With round 2 in the bag, it's now time for our final round. This one's a little different. It's time for the quickfire round. In this round, you'll have 60 seconds to answer as many yes or no questions as you can. If you answer anything other than yes or no, the round will end. In this round, you'll be shooting for a high score against all of our other guests. As our first guess, you've got it very easy. So now, it's time to get started. 60 seconds on the clock.
Are you a master detective?
Yes.
Do you think rabbits are interesting?
No.
Did Kumakichi-kun do it?
Yes.
Does a hot pink skirt match light pink fur?
No.
Have you ever been taken away by the police?
Yes.
Is a tree with only 3 branches healthy?
No.
Would you wear a shirt that said fierce animal?
Yes.
Do you have a favorite animal?
Yes.
Would you call the cops on any criminal even if they were your friends or parents?
Yes.
Do you like volleyball?
Yes.
Does a dog go wan-wan?
Yes.
Is today a good day?
Yes.
Have you ever put a dead cat in someone's desk?
No.
Do you enjoy flowers?
No.
Do you like calling the cops more than you like solving crimes?
No.
Is vigilantism okay?
Yes.
What's your favorite color?
Yes.
And there you have it, folks. Maxy Bee has answered a total of 17 questions. That places them at first place, since no one else has played this game yet. As our big winner, you get a choice. You can either take these 6 tickets to a private zoo in Siberia, travel and accommodations not included, or you can tell the audience where they can find you and what you've got going on.
You can go and find all the podcasts I do research for over at shonenflop.com. It's a very good show, well presented and factually correct about everything, except for possibly the host's opinions. But my bit's correct. And you can also go and find me at Maxy Bee at Blue Sky, where I do every album ever ranked, where I list about 2 albums onto my ever-growing list of ranked albums every weekday for the rest of time, occasionally more if I have the time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you had a fun time. Anime Podcaster Speed Date is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Prizes are provided in partnership with Segoy-Mart. Click the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Production is sponsored courtesy of our wonderful patrons. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes or the other shows on the Anime Podcaster Reincarnation Network. go to animepodcasterreincarnation.com to learn more. And with that, this has been Maxy Bee, Kermit D. Grog, and me, Isekai Sensei-Sama. And you've just been part of an Anime Podcaster Speed Date.
I'm feeling very nervous all of a sudden.
You should.
Turn up the burners.
I'm only going to be doing timing on some of these things, so I will let you know when that happens.
I'm going to answer everything like I only have 10 seconds to give an answer.
It's fine.
I mean, save that energy for the lightning round. You're going to need it if you want to set the high score.
I mean, hopefully it doesn't take 10 seconds to say yes or no.
I can't think of a joke about how Americans have sex. I'm sure you guys will let me know.
Often and well.
Fuck.
I was going to say, get called... get called back on the show and find out.
Oh dear.
We can't do this to people we don't know.
Or you can tell the audience where they can find you and what you've got going on.
Yes.
Maxy, the round is over. You can speak with full sentences now.
No. Just sandbag the end of the show.
Perfect. I love it.
Honestly, no, send me those tickets. I'm holding you to the gun. You gotta follow through.
Shonen under the gun now.
If you don't want to plug stuff, that's fine.
No, I will plug
right
stuff.
here.
I'll take the plug. I need the attention. I need the attention.
Can I ask you one bonus question I didn't get to ask because it was literally my next one?
Oh, go.
Are you some kind of weird pervert for suggesting this episode?
Yes.
You know what's funny about that? Because we watched what is actually episode 11 that we thought was 12. And I had all these ideas for questions because it's like the nature of death and rebirth and then the second part of the episode is like
weird.
just like brushing off all these people dying just because I got to get home and take care of my laundry. And it was
it's
like
the perfect gag.
Yeah, we were
the
gonna
fact
have
when the foreign exchange student is like, "Hi."
We had all this going, and then it's like Friday night. I'm like, this is the wrong episode.
Quick, delete all my questions that
And
I've
then
been.
I watched the right one, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it was a wonderful curveball.
So much different.
Already a curveball that got curvier.
Yeah.